Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm Darren McBreen. It is Thursday, April 9th, 2015. Here's a quick look what's coming up.
Tonight, Rand Paul attack ads take a page out of the LBJ playbook. Then, what's John McCain's dirty secret? How does it affect POWs? And Afghan opium production hits a new high. That's next on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
So they keep all that stuff on the LD, on the lowdown. Not on the down low, it's lowdown.
Well, the first warning shot has been fired across the bow at Rand Paul. This immediately after he announced that he will be running for U.S. president in 2016. An establishment Republican front group responded to the announcement by launching their anti-Rand Paul advertising campaign. In the first of what's expected to be a series of slanderous TV ads against Rand Paul, the elitist neocon warmongers released this television spot, which depicts Rand Paul as dangerous and claims that he stands with Barack Obama.
The Senate is considering tough new sanctions on Iran. President Obama says he'll veto them, and Rand Paul is standing with him. Rand Paul supports Obama's negotiations with Iran, and he doesn't understand the threat.
You know, it's ridiculous to think that they're a threat to our national security.
Rand Paul is wrong and dangerous. Tell him to stop siding with Obama, because even one Iranian bomb would be a disaster.
So there you go, a classic example of fear-mongering, and this ad is being run by the Foundation for a Secure and Prosperous America. These guys are big supporters of Senator John McCain, by the way. And so far, it looks like it will mostly run on Fox News channels. No big surprise there. And it really reminds me of the attack ads that LBJ used against Barry Goldwater back in the 1964 presidential race. The Lyndon Baines Johnson campaign, they used scare tactics to trick or scare the American people into voting for Johnson, because if they didn't, little girls were going to get nuked.
2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 6, 8, 9,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
These are the stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
So voters got scared and LBJ remained president, thus the escalation of the Vietnam War. And I want to play another one. I like these old ads because this was an entire ad campaign, a psyop, if you will, targeting the American people, scaring them into believing that a vote for Lyndon Johnson meant a safer America.
Do you know what people used to do? They used to explode atomic bombs in the air. Now, children should have lots of vitamin A and calcium, but they shouldn't have any strontium-90 or cesium-137. These things come from atomic bombs, and they're radioactive. They can make you die. Do you know what people finally did? They got together and signed a nuclear test ban treaty, and then the radioactive poison started to go away. But now, there's a man who wants to be president of the United States, and he doesn't like this treaty. He fought against it. He even voted against it. He wants to go on testing more bombs. His name is Barry Goldwater, and if he's elected, they might start testing all over again.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
So So the more things change, the more they stay the same. And Rand Paul, he's being attacked on all fronts right now, both from the left and the right. And that says a lot. I mean, it tells me he might be onto something. And I'll be the first to admit that I have some serious reservations about Rand Paul. For example, he voted against GMO labeling. What the heck was that all about? But there's no doubt that he is the #1 candidate right now, and they're treating him like a threat. And that's why he has to be shut down. I mean, he poses a threat, so he has to be dealt with. They can't get someone like Rand Paul in there who has libertarian views. No, they need someone like Jeb Bush, or even worse, God forbid, someone like Hillary Clinton.
Well, Rand Paul has taken the lead in Iowa as the press, both left and right establishment, goes into overdrive attacks. A lot of top Democrats and pundits are saying Hillary Clinton's campaign is in free fall. I said weeks ago that it's basically collapsed. I don't see that she can be put back together again. And Rand Paul, as we pointed out 2 years ago in major polls, the senator is one of the only people out there that can bring the country together and defeat a Hillary Clinton or someone else on the controlled left because of his previous anti-war stance. And that's why you got the neocons and rhinos coming out against Senator Rand Paul, because they've got his phones tapped, the government does. They know he's a good guy. They know he's been a listener of this show for years and been on the broadcast 20 years ago, before anybody knew who Rand Paul was. And they just can't stand him. I mean, they know he's a patriot. And they know his dad's a patriot. And by the way, Rand Paul and Ron Paul are not radicals. In fact, they probably wouldn't even be seen as hardcore enough in 1776, just like I probably wouldn't be. It's that compared to the radical big government, globalist corporate takeover and the socialist underpinning to domesticate the public, compared to how radical the establishment is, we are radicals. I mean, I remember 5 years ago, we published an article about the Journal of Bioethics putting out a paper calling for killing kids up to age 3, and then other bioethics journals calling for killing old people. Even if they're not sick, just get rid of them. That's George Bernard Shaw socialist talk. You know, if the state doesn't have a place for you, you die. It's the opposite of a loving, compassionate, take care of the sick and elderly and the young and the infirm and the mentally ill. It's the opposite. It's a eugenics-based system. And so they've had a whisper campaign by the libertarian groups saying he's not hardcore enough. They've got the left attacking him. They've got the right-wing establishment attacking him because Rand Paul is the real deal. That's all you need to know. I mean, the establishment is attacking him because he's got a real shot at winning. And that doesn't mean that Rand Paul would save the world. It's just a bellwether of how libertarian, constitutional Americana ideas are coming back into fashion, and it's about legalizing freedom. And it's not about the left owning certain issues and the controlled right owning certain others. It's about people saying we want basic freedom, we want small government, we want local control, we want transparency, we don't want foreign bailouts and foreign aid and corporate bailouts and corporate aid. It needs to be curtailed. Plus, we're going off the edge of a cliff, going bankrupt.
Now, one person who's been dead set against Rand Paul from the very beginning is Senator John McCain. And by the way, he just announced that he will be seeking yet another term. And that's good news for the military-industrial complex, because McCain is known for his cozy relationship with the likes of Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and Boeing. And he also has a very cozy relationship with radical Islamic terrorists. That alone should guarantee his position in the Senate. And it was McCain who was instrumental in arming and funding ISIS terrorists in Libya.
I am concerned about this report about Syrian rebels and the ceasefire with ISIS. Senator
But
Paul,
that's not true.
Well,
it's not true. It's
you want
not
me to read
true.
from the,
Whether I don't care about the report. I know these people intimately. We talk to them all the time.
Abdel Makeem Belhach, seen here with Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham. Well, he's the leader of radical Islamic fighting groups affiliated with Al-Qaeda, better known around here as Al-Qaeda. And these guys actually killed U.S. troops in Iraq and Afghanistan.
I know these people. I'm in contact with them all the time.
And we know that ISIS keeps receiving these accidental airdrops of weapons from U.S. planes. Yeah, I wonder how that goes down. And I've talked with Joe Biggs about that. He says there's no way that it's an accident, that these guys pride themselves in pinpoint accuracy. So the fact that these weapons end up in the hands of ISIS come on, guys, it's deliberate. The United States is deliberately dropping these weapons into the hands of terrorists. Thank you, John McCain. We know you've been supporting these terrorists for a very long time. And I'll tell you something else about Senator John McCain that most of you don't know about. This is his dirty little secret that you won't catch on the mainstream corporate news media. And that's the fact that he is despised and hated by most Vietnam veterans. I know this might come to a shock to some of you because we've all heard from our television sets how John McCain was a courageous prisoner of war during Vietnam, and that he was loved by the brave men and women that he served with. And you know, it's not exactly true. You know, following the Vietnam War, there was a huge search for American POWs, and it was Senator John McCain who opposed the Senate Select Committee on POW MIA affairs. That's right. He didn't want anybody looking into his past and what really went down during his capture.
North Korea did not return a large number of American servicemen at the end of the war, and that some of the men left behind were sent to communist China and to the Soviet Union. Internal documents and statements made at the time also show that our government believed that men were still alive in captivity, and until only a few months ago has kept that reality from the American people. It has covered up what it knew through a pattern of denial, misleading statements, in some cases lies, and by doing so with regard to the Korean conflict, it broke its commitment with the people who put on the uniform to fight for the freedoms and protection that we and our allies enjoy today.
I'll tell you, what's not said on the television and will not be said on the television is how much Vietnam veterans and POWs hate John McCain.
A lot of POWs that were living in the camp said he was a collaborator of the enemy. And he didn't want nobody looking into his background in the camp, what went on in that camp. That stuff is still classified, so nobody could see it. And he just had it classified forever, so nobody will ever look at it.
I'm an old Vietnam veteran, and all the POWs that I've talked to over the years say that John McCain is a lying skunk. You know, that he never was tortured. They were there in the camp with him, and when he came in with his two broken arms because he failed to pull his arms in when he bailed out of his plane and had a leg injury, he immediately started spilling his guts about everything because he didn't want to get tortured. And he made 32 different videos for the communists speaking out against America and how evil they were for what they were doing in Vietnam.
Probably did more harm to the idea of trying to get the truth out than any other single person through the efforts he did to block the release of classified intelligence dealing with the POW-MIA problem.
John McCain and John Kerry both were not pursuing this with the same approach that I was.
But on the Senate side, we had one person standing in the way of getting in positions that would have been very tough on government bureaucrats who didn't tell the truth. And that one person was Senator John McCain.
He insisted that no committee be set up unless he was chairman. Obviously, his intent was to kill everything.
He admits that he gave them all of the codes, all of the data, and I'm not even so much blaming him for that, because under torture people do that, but it turns out he wasn't tortured, and then he started singing like